All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Middle Tech's Friday Update. Hope everyone has had a great week so far. We've got some good stories for you guys this morning. A little bit around content moderation as the conversation around that just heats up with, of course, the Elon Musk stuff on Twitter, and then a couple different legislative things that are going on in the space. And then Twitter just introducing a new policy around misinformation. So we want to just talk about have a general conversation around this content moderation stuff that's going on. And then we're also going to bring on Ross from DevelopLex to talk about this new development that we actually just got to break the news on yesterday. So big news for Lexington. Let me get Nate in here and we'll go ahead and get started. We're down one person. Evan is actually on a road trip. He's out in Zion National Park in Utah today. So no Evan on this Friday update, but that's okay. We don't need him. Let's see, seems like it's giving Nate some trouble. So this week in tech history, while we wait on Nate to join, May 19th, 2001, Apple debuts their retail stores, opening the first in McLean, Virginia and Washington, D.C. And I think anybody that's been in an Apple store can agree that that's probably one of a big contributor to their overall growth, just because it's so cool going in the Apple store. I always want to pick up everything that they have in there and check everything out. Let's see. Let me let Nate in. Yeah, it's giving me some trouble with that. All right, technical difficulties. Stand by. Saying Nate declined. There we go.
There we go.
This is making me nervous.
It can never be easy. Let's just
Oh
say
man,
that.
it never go. It seems like it never goes down without at least something slightly going wrong.
No.
How you doing this
haven't
morning?
covered sponsors for today.
Yeah. Okay. Let's dive in. Go ahead.
Cool. I'm doing good. Not the scary small talk. I am great, and our sponsors are also great. Today's sponsors, we got KY Innovation, the state's innovation partner division that is helping entrepreneurs, investors, and other general innovators in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. They have a lot of great programs. They're a presenting sponsor for the entire year, enabling everything that we do here. So thank you to KY Innovation. Also, Bolt Marketing, great marketing company based in Lexington. They do a lot of work with startups to make sure that their brand, their online image is covered so founders can focus on actually doing the work and not worry too much about marketing. So thank you to KY Innovation and Bolt Marketing.
Best sponsors in the game. They allow us to do what we do.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, let's dive on in. We've got two news stories that are kind of revolve around the same subject here, and that's just this conversation around content moderation. I mean, everything around that is just kind of heating up in general right now. We see, Elon claiming that he's acquiring Twitter to make it a haven for free speech. We see some legislation coming out just around content moderation and what, these tech companies can actually do. And then we even see new policies coming out of the tech companies themselves for what kind of content they can take off of their platform. So the first news story that I want to cover here is there's a law coming out of Texas that is looking to allow consumers or allow users of social media apps to be able to sue the social media companies if their content gets taken down due to their viewpoints. So the tech giants have looked to block this. They obviously want to have the control on their side. In order to be able to make those decisions themselves about what can stay on their platform and what can come down. Just for a quick recap of this before we kind of dive into the conversation. In December, a judge actually stopped this law from taking effect, and now it was appealed. A judge in New Orleans overruled the lower court, and now saying that the law is allowed to be enforced. So now the tech giants have gone to the Supreme Court for an emergency ruling, still trying to block that law going into effect. So I just thought this was an interesting story around this whole content moderation thing. Nate, what's your take on just these tech giants trying to play such a heavy-handed role in what they can do on their platforms?
Yeah, so I think I want to just kind of touch on the other quick story that we had as well and kind of loop
Sure.
this whole discussion together.
Okay.
But what you just said is obviously there's now been a ruling that there's a law that can be enforced that individuals can sue social media platforms if they feel they've been censored because of their views. The other side of it Twitter just announced that they're getting stricter with their censorship of the Ukrainian crisis, and they will begin taking down misleading claims about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, including material that mischaracterizes conditions in conflict zones or makes false allegations. This is similar to current policies they have around COVID misinformation, and there's a couple other sensitive topic areas as well where what's considered misinformation from one viewpoint, they'll take down the content on top of the just general policies that they have. So they're kind of two different sides here. When I was reading this, like, I think we're starting to get to the point where we have to decide if social media is a utility or not. And if it's a utility, which maybe it is, I think that opens a conversation of with information being a utility, is it my right? Am I entitled to all types of information, everything I can decide for myself? Or if it's not a utility, then all of these companies, Meta, Twitter, Google, YouTube, they're all private companies. They could do whatever the hell they want on their platform and promote and unpromote any type of content they want in a perfect world. So I think that's kind of, if you zoom out, that's where the conversation has to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. I know we've talked about this topic quite a bit. As I feel like as the country's kind of become more divided, this has become almost a political issue in a way, which is kind of sad because this is such an important issue, and I hate that we're trying to make it into kind of a political thing all of a sudden. But I mean, it's not a binary thing, and my thoughts on all this is that I think this is one of the biggest issues facing humanity right now, and I don't think I've heard a good solution for it yet. I think I remember having a conversation probably on a Friday update where we talked about this was on a podcast with Ethan Gill, who is an engineer at Facebook actually, and we were talking about there almost needs to be like a digital bill of rights written out, but I don't even think we'd be able to agree on what would be in those bill of rights right now. I'm of the opinion, I lean more towards, I think you should put more responsibility on the individual. It should be more leaning towards free speech, but I think that it's just so nuanced. It's not binary. You can't just say I don't think it should be free speech absolutionist like what Elon Musk was saying, because then you have so much content that is so toxic on social media, and it's like not an enjoyable place to be. But at the same time, you kind of have to place more responsibility on the individual to curate what they're seeing on social media. I mean, we have a lot of controls as individuals over what we see. So I'm sitting on the post here in terms of trying to take one side or the other, but I mean, it's something that I don't know. There needs to be so much more conversation around it, because it's going to become, I guess the reason it's so important to take a step back is, mass communication and sharing of information is one of the pillars of our society. And social media has just made it to where it can be instantly done. We saw it with Ukraine. We were getting real-time updates on this war in a country across the world. So the fact that we have access to information like that, I mean, information and the sharing of information is a pillar of society. We're seeing what happens now when the trust in those systems that provide us that information starts to erode. I just think it's a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah. I also, a little bit of historical context, like, we've never had free speech absolutism. That has never existed. Like, if you go all the way back to an actual physical town square, if you went in the town square and started talking shit about the mayor or the popular socialite in the town, like, people would stop you. Newspapers, if you read newspapers from like World War I, they sound like propaganda machines. All of, the old media was all one-sided and, for the USA, obviously. And then even like World War II into the Vietnam era, the big media companies like Disney, for example, were literally making propaganda. Like, there's cartoons of like Mickey Mouse killing Nazis, basically. Like, these media companies have always, media in general has always coalesced around one viewpoint. With a historical perspective, that viewpoint is probably the one that we should have, obviously. But like, there wasn't just people always saying everything. That is in and of itself a newer phenomenon. And so now these companies, like social media companies, are trying to figure out how to regulate that in one way or the other. So this idea that we're like losing free speech, I don't think is necessarily accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean more the opposite way of that. I almost want to have like a free speech scholar on here to
Yeah.
give some credibility to this because I personally have not studied it and I don't have like I can't take a side so strongly because I feel like I have the knowledge to base that on. I see Brandon sent a comment in here that said every person is a media company and regulate like you would like the FCC regulates TV. I disagree with that. I don't think that each individual person should be regulated like they regulate TV. I mean, that would be, I feel like that's way too far to take it, in my opinion. But anyway, I guess I can't even really say that I'm completely for one or the other. Like I said, it's not binary, but I think it's a conversation that just needs to have more visibility and awareness around it for now. And we'll see where it goes from there. But anything else you want to add to that conversation before we move on to this other big piece of news?
Do you think access to information should be a right and a utility?
That's a great question. And I think that gets into, information is like access to information. If you get information before another party gets information, like that has a lot of value to it. I think, I mean, even we with Middle Tech see that in terms of how we get information. So I think it's difficult to make it a utility. I don't think it'll ever be completely equal, just like anything else in life. Like you're not going to be able to give equal and easy access to all information at the exact same time to every single person. Like information is always going to flow, I don't know, in not a perfectly equal way. So that's a great question. I think for the most part it should be a utility. Yes, I think that you should have access to accurate, trustworthy, truthful information as a utility. Now the systems that actually deliver that are so complex and are so nuanced.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would ever actually get to that point.
I
You
agree
know?
with you in a perfect world, but I think what you just said is super important. You should have access to like vetted, truthful, trustworthy information. Who's to make that decision? That's a whole
Yeah.
other conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, pretty wild stuff to.
yeah.
You can go down a rabbit hole on it. Let's put it that
Oh,
way.
for sure, for sure.
Let's move on to this next story though, and we're actually going to bring on Ross from DevelopLex. So Ross, if you're watching, if you want to send a request to hop in here, we want to bring him on to talk about this new development that's coming into downtown Lexington. So if you're familiar with the parking lot that is across from RUP, it was just announced that the Webb companies and Lincoln Property companies are going to be building a new multi-use living space there, and we're all pretty excited about it. So let's see if we can get Ross in here, and then we'll have him join in to talk about it. Let me send him a request. All right, we'll get him in here. He's so Ross works with the Webb companies. He's been working on this project really closely. So Ross, how's it going this morning?
Welcome.
Yeah, well, let's start by just talking about what the announcement actually was, and we'll dive into some of the implications of it and what comes next. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the space that's going to be developed. What kind of development is actually going to go into that parking lot that there's currently? Yeah, that's super
That's
exciting.
awesome.
I live downtown, and I can tell you how badly needed a grocery store is, just kind of within my vicinity. And then also just to have, more of that density and more units downtown, I think is going to be awesome, not only for downtown, but for the city as a whole. So I'm super excited about it. Nate, were you about to say something there?
Yeah, can you talk at all about how long you've been working on, putting this together? How long in the making this is, and what your role has been in the process?
Yeah, we can tell you're really excited about it. I think the response that I've seen so far has been overwhelmingly positive. I think everyone realizes this is something that's much needed for the city and for downtown. So, congrats on all your hard work to make it happen. Excited to see progress start on it. So, something we with Develop Lex will keep everyone updated on. So, thanks for joining us, Ross.
Ross, talk about Develop Lex real quick before you jump off. Where can people get more
Yeah,
info
yeah.
like this?
Give a plug. Absolutely. Well, we have an episode that comes out for that every other week on Thursdays. So check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. Develop Lex. If you just search it, you should see it. Or if you search Middle Tech, it's also under the Middle Tech brand. You should be able to find it pretty easy. Ross is one of the hosts of that, along with Weston Lockhart. They absolutely kill the interviews. So lots to be learned from Develop Lex. Before we let you guys go, we just want to go over the episodes we have coming out. Nate, what kind of weekend thoughts do we have coming out tomorrow?
Weekend thoughts tomorrow. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about this trial, the RICO allegations against Young Thug and Gunna in Atlanta, talking about how they're using lyrics and music videos that they put out as evidence in court, and what that could
Huh.
mean for creators in general.
Interesting. Wow, I like that a lot. That's one I'll definitely have to listen to. And then let's see. On Monday, we have an episode coming out. So this is actually this is going to be a little bit different than what we typically put out. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I just got to visit Tampa with Commerce Lex. So while I was down in Tampa, I couldn't resist doing a quick interview with somebody in their tech ecosystem. Tampa's just been named the #1 emerging tech city in the US. So they're doing a lot of things right. So I wanted to sit down with somebody that was helping build that. So I sat down with the CEO of an organization called Embark Collective. Her name was Lakshmi Shenoy, and she was brilliant. And the way they go about building their tech ecosystem down there is kind of unique. And I'm excited for people in this ecosystem to listen to it and hopefully learn from it. So that episode's going to be coming out on Monday. Other than that, I think that's all we got for you guys. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.